Guys, I just realized that this entire time my microphone has been over there. So I'm not filming this again. Like I feel like crying right now. I'm not filming this again. So however you see it, take it like that, okay? 1 second. Oh my god. Hi. I've been thinking how to make my reviews shorter. So one way I've decided and I've been practicing for some time is doing away with formalities. So you would have noticed that something that has changed from my earlier videos is the whole list of actors and the roles that they play. Now another way that I'm trying shorten my reviews, my videos, is doing away with my urge to balance out the good and the bad by highlighting irrelevant things. I do that quite a lot and you guys deserve better, because sometimes I do feel bad when I have like a whole list of things that just do not work about the movie, and then I feel like there's not enough in this section and I feel a strong like desire to balance it out. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna sound like a hater. It's like I'm dumping on this movie and I didn't say, and then I go and start like searching, and sometimes it's just a bunch of lightweight stuff that you should take for granted, So going forward, if it doesn't stand out as exceptional, like I'm not gonna say, I can't even think of one thing right now, but I'm not going to mention anything that just should be, that is just so basic, So if it's the good, for instance, if your costume is just people wearing clothes, it's people wearing clothes. So I just wanted to say that, which means what I'm putting you on notice is that sometimes if I just say there's not very much I liked about this movie, I'm going to move straight on to the bad. All right, let's get to it.
Guys, please allow me ask a favor. This is Jason Abaga, and if that name sounds familiar, yes, those are Bagas. Ema Abaga, Jesse Jags Abaga. This is their baby brother. Jason is in end stage kidney failure and he needs our help. He needs $50,000 to get a kidney. Please let's help Jason get his kidney. He's a friend, he's a colleague, he's a brother, he's a son, but most important of all, he's dad to the most amazing little girl in the world. Please help us help Jason so that his little girl does not have to grow up without a dad, but also because Jason really deserves to be here. Thank you so much. There's a GoFundMe link in the description below. Could you please consider contributing? $50,000 is a lot, but every little bit helps, and eventually we will get Jason his kidney. Would you be a part of this, please? Thank you.
Reviewing L.I.F.E, and I assume that's how it's pronounced and that it's not an abbreviation. So L.I.F.E is a drama streaming on Prime Video, utilizing the tried and true body switch trope. Its writer-director is Uyoyou Adia. For its synopsis, it says, Life intertwines the tales of Ema, an advertising professional yearning to fulfill her childhood dreams of becoming a dancer, and Yinka, a passionate dancer struggling with life's challenges. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Guys, you're here. Welcome and thank you. Please, as you watch this movie, hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And at the end, would you please share? I'd also like to hear what you have to say in the comment section. The general overview, I was curious about this movie and eager to see how it was executed, if and how they would pull it off. Keep watching to see what I thought. First, the summary. Two women, Ema and Yinka, played by Omowunmi Dada and Efe Irele, respectively, expressed dissatisfaction with their distinctly different lives. One, Ema, is an advertising big girl who lives in a nice house and rides in a nice car with a personal driver, and she just wears couture to work. The other is a dancer, barely scraping by, barely managing to hold it together, keep her head above water under a mountain of debt. After meeting with a mysterious stranger, they both wake up in each other's bodies and have to navigate what it feels like to walk in another person's shoes. The central theme of this movie is contentment. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, I did not like this movie very much. However, I will state a few things that I did enjoy. So, what worked? Debo Adebayo, less Mr. Macaroni. So I really liked him here as Emma's boss. It was a very different kind of vibe, a very different kind of personality from what we're used to seeing him play. And he just has so much presence in this movie. He wasn't a lead character or anything, but I did enjoy his performance. Olarotimi Fakunle as Mr. Bayo. I like this actor and I tend to see him in certain kinds of roles. So it was nice to see him here, kind of like in this paternal role, and it was just a different vibe as well. And I enjoyed his very like mellow acting. Freedom Park as a character, guys, the nostalgia. I love that place so much. The hours I spent there. There's so much history. There's so many memories for me for Freedom Park. And the next time I'm there, I don't know if it will still be the same place. So it was so good to see Freedom Park here. And I wish they had said it was Freedom Park instead of saying somewhere near the cultural center. I said Freedom Park as a character, but it wasn't positioned as a character. It's just I know that that's Freedom Park. I'm going to say that the technical elements did not offend me. The lighting was this mellow, toned down quality, and it didn't bother me at all. So there was nothing that stood out as abrasive. No. On the other hand, could I say that there was anything in the technical aspect that stood up as particularly exciting or interesting? It just was there in the background, and that is fine. The product placement in this movie, I liked the fact that they created one of the worlds in the story was an advertising company, business, whatever. So I like the fact that they were able to fuse their product placement with this agency, and so that worked. I mean, I did go check out my Niger reviews just from seeing that big banner that was there the entire time. So that was good. I think they might have been advertising some other kinds of products that become quite popular in the Nigerian film industry, but I'm sure that was unintentional. Now, completely not related to the last point, but it must have been a feat to find two actresses with matching bodies, matching planned wardrobes, and matching auburn hair to be best friends and work buddies. Or is it hard? Because Nollywood has a certain aesthetic. Don't be a bitch, bro. Just carry on. There were a few moments of uncertain, unintentional comedy.
It's me, Emma Model. You took me to go and eat even when I had lied that I had already eaten. Remember?
Not there.
You know what you should have said here? This is what you should have said.
Yo, your body fat. Yo, your body look good. Yo, Eve, turn on. I'm about to, good. Yo, bend over.
Yeah, okay. Guys, please subscribe to my channel. Just a reminder again, and please like this video if you're having any fun so far. What did not work? Basically, everything story execution. The story was there, the idea was there, but nearly everything wrong with this movie had to do with the script, the story itself, but especially the plot. Also the structure in some areas. The opening sequence was not at all in tune with the genre and the tone of this movie, and it was therefore misleading. I feel like it's just one of those things that you want to do, but it doesn't really fit with the movie that you're making. So I did not enjoy how this movie started, and it just I guess you could say it went downhill from first stop. The inciting incident happening at almost the halfway mark is just unacceptable. I don't mean the body switch. In this movie, the inciting incident was the body switch. However, it could have been separate events. For instance, the movie with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta Face Off, there was body switch, but that was not the inciting incident. So it was fine that the switch happened down the line. There was a whole interesting story that happened all the way until that happened, so it was completely fine. In this movie though, the inciting incident, as I said, happening at almost the halfway mark was just unacceptable. The movie had a runtime of 107 minutes, including 4 minutes of end credits. The switch did not happen until the 40-minute mark. Now, Mr. C of Europa Critic, he was helpful enough to provide us with an idea what an average switch time in body switch movies would look like. So it's on the screen there. In this movie, out of 107-minute runtime, the switch happened at the 40-minute mark. That was just and the the point or the problem is that there was nothing happening leading up to that moment that was particularly interesting. It was just a whole lot of excruciating and just quite uninteresting setup. There was no real character development. The only thing we knew about these women, Ema and Yinka, is that they were both dissatisfied with their roles and had just some run-of-the-mill problems with, I don't know, family tax and debt. There was nothing unique about them. These characters were not in the least bit compelling. There were no real lessons to be learned at the end of the movie, and there was no like real just growth or change in the characters. These characters they weren't actually challenged in any way within their different assumed identities. In addition to this, the story was skewed so much in bias of the theme or slash the message of this movie, that's contentment, that it blatantly refused to show the enjoyable aspects of the other person's circumstances. It didn't want to tell you that it was possible, for instance, for Yinka to enjoy being Ema or for Ema to enjoy being Yinka. It's only, well, there was some lip service paid to, I like your bed, I like sleeping in your bed, I'll miss your bed or whatever. And you know what, this would, if they had done more, you know, with having this, each person like some aspect of the other person's life, it would have created some conflict when it came to like giving their bodies back. I also did not like the fact that only Yinka expressed at least something she was envious of from Ema's life. It looked as though there was a tone of elitism there, you know, like Yinka saw something to admire in Ema's life but not the other way around. Are you telling me that there's nothing that a girl who lives like a bougie life could experience on the other side of the tracks that would be nice? Look, I've had a few instances where I've taken someone somewhere, someone who's of a certain demographic, I've taken them somewhere to experience something that was so completely out of their experience, and they would be like, that was the best day of my life. And one such instance was actually Mama Put, you know. So that was kind of weird that they decided to tell the story that way. Why do you think all these rich person finds themselves having to mingle with the hoi polloi type of films? Why do you think they were a prince finding himself in the village or dealing with the commoners, and then he settles into it and sees that their lives are so much fun, you know? But this movie decided that just being poor is like the worst thing ever. And that's because, again, they didn't even get to spend any time in each other's like identities. If I'm someone else for a day, do you know what I would do with that? Like, I would have some fun with that. The characters never had to make any like actual choices or decisions. The body switch happened completely without their active input, and the switch back also happened without their having anything to do with it, really. And even within this assumed identity, they were not pushed in any way. So I don't know, there were no stakes that felt urgent or, you know, interesting enough. The movie's didacticism in frowning on people wanting or fantasizing or dreaming about different circumstances is weird, especially since what Ema wants is actually very easily achievable. What this movie did, especially with Emma's character, was to create a false binary, actually with both characters, but especially with Ema, was to create this false binary. So it framed it as though her job was all a hindrance, you know, to her having this dancer life, but she absolutely did not have to pay. Look, even when I didn't have any money, I used to go to salsa classes in Surulere, and I used to go all the way to Lekki for yoga, you know, like, so in fact, I would even argue that if anything, her job provided her the opportunity to actually have a separate life, even if it was just as a hobby. She works 5 days a week. She has 2 days of the weekend. She even had evenings. So she really could have, I mean, she had a personal driver. She had a nice house. She had time to go sit and pine, you know, at Freedom Park, etc. So, you know, I would say that she had the means to even hire a private dance instructor, you know, at least start somewhere. It looked as though they framed it as if she had to make the choice between either working in this corporate world or dump it completely to be a dancer. Like, that is insane. So because of that, I hate it when movies fail at the premise point, because then the rest of it is kind of like just treading water. Even Yinka, when she expressed sentiments about working in the corporate world, it was like all there is to working in the corporate world is just, you know, answering to people. Like, there will be no other pleasures to be gotten out of life once you're locked into that system, which is just insane. People, it's called work-life balance balance, okay? This movie could not seem to decide whether people still had their jobs or not. And then I mentioned that the structure did not work in some instances. For instance, when Yinka in Emma's body was still at home, dancing around, trying on clothes and being awed by everything. I mean, when did Emma's driver arrived to take her to work? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to work anywhere in Lagos, if your driver's going to pick you up by like 5:30, they should already be there. But by the time the driver got there, Emma in Yinka's body had already been trekking for hours. I was surprised when we came back and this other person was still at home, so just stuff like that. And then there were not enough differences between the characters, to draw like a defining line between them other than physically. So they were just too similar. For instance, they both always arrived late to things. So I feel like it would have been a far more interesting or compelling story to see each person acting in completely different ways. So for instance, if Emma, who's always late to work, showed up super early and the office is like, whoa, perpetual late comer. And then on the other side, if it was different and Yinka had typically been very early and then she showed up like super late, or whatever. Actually, that would presuppose that they went as themselves. And that brings me to my next point, which is that a better story would have been to see the switch characters trying to fit into the other person's world. I don't know why they went with this incredibly weird idea of having these people like Emma going to work and trying to force everyone to recognize her, going to work in Yinka's body and trying to force and bully everyone into recognizing her, and Yinka in Emma's body going to her dance group and trying to tell them it's me. Like, did they both have temporary insanity? Because that's insane, so I don't know. So it would have been more compelling to see each person as the other person, being in the other person's world and trying to fit in. This super realistic take, the way they decided to do it, of forcing everyone to recognize them, but then play, it's super unrealistic, but played super realistically, and by having everyone just accept this incredibly mysterious thing that had happened and then just rolling with it, right? Like, what was this?
Oh, well, you have your calling now, your dream, reality, dancing.
The problem is, Yinka is here, but she's not here.
Yinka is here, but what is that supposed to mean?
When I tell you that I could not stop laughing at this entire conversation, whoever did this to Karen's character and had her take the burden of exposition in this movie and keep talking nonsense all the time, oh my god, it was too much. I think this movie, I should have gotten myself a drink for this movie, for real. So yeah, the exposition was a lot, okay? So, this movie also did not understand its two mainstays, which was its two characters making sure that the other person did not blow their lives up while also looking for a way. Guys, I just realized that this entire time my microphone has been over there. So I'm not filming this again. Like, I feel like crying right now. I'm not filming this again. So however you see it, take it like that, okay? 1 second. Oh my god.
I absolutely do not believe this. I do not believe this. So this is the second video I'm filming today. So after filming the first video, I had to take some pictures for my thumbnail and I pushed the mic out of the way and I didn't bring it back. So, I'm so sorry. Just deal with my sound, however you've gotten it so far, okay? At least it's on. And fortunately for me, I had set the range too far. Not that far, and I wasn't exactly projecting, but oh my gosh. I just said that, like, I don't know if you guys ever saw that video where that chick was on a podcast and her wig just flew off her head and she said, oh my god. And I thought it was the best reaction I've ever seen to an embarrassing moment. So this is embarrassing, but not in the same way. Hey, stay one place. Okay. Yeah, what was I saying? I was saying that this movie did not understand that its two main stakes were that the characters had the task of making sure that the other person did not blow up their own life while also figuring out a way to get back into their own bodies. So instead, I really don't know what was happening for like a chunk of this movie. And then just it would have been more fun, if they had gone that way. It would have been more fun to watch each one trying to coach the other to better fit in with their lives. And this would have been an organic point of conflict, because can you imagine entrusting a stranger to be you and to not blow up your life? So that would have made for like real organic humor. And then they would also have to work together to get back into their own bodies. And so while the other would be a point of conflict because you can never do me as well as me, this would be a point of synergy because they're working together, to get back. Now, the characters also did not spend nearly enough time as the other person or experience anything tangible about being the other person to come away feeling like it was enough to give away their fantasies. So, for instance, is Yinka supposed to come away feeling that it's great to be poor? By the way, that workplace was not even toxic. Everything that happened there was actually as a result of Emma being legitimately a slacker and coming late to work and all that stuff. When she did do well, didn't her boss like praise her, right? She did receive appropriate praise. So that example of like, this kind of life and everything's about money, like, yeah, more money, more problem, okay? And then for Emma, after a few body aches and pains, she realized that the dancing life is not for her. Why? Because she didn't know that a dancer would hurt like all the time. Somebody who lifts, somebody who is in any kind of profession that pushes themselves physically, they are almost always constantly in pain. So this was so incredibly naive and honestly just annoying. My husband has told me to stop saying something was rubbish or nonsense or whatever, so I'm trying my best, but sometimes honestly I really just want to say it that way, so because she had aches and pains and hurt, she just decided that her dreams were not worth it. And also after a little brokenness, she just decided that her dancing life was not worth it. And Yinka, after seeing the frenetic pace of the capitalist dream, which again, nothing really happened, but she realized that, I don't know, she would rather live in the ghetto. Like, what does she think that people who have jobs do? What does she think that their lives are like? They just lounge. This was all like very unconvincing. The resolution was just incredibly bad. I'm not sure what the lesson was. Like, what? Life gives us what we ask for. I mean, it did say that just to teach us a lesson. And so, yeah, contentment with one's own lot, that's the lesson. But how is that in any way aspirational? Contentment is good, but there's a difference between, I'm not going to belabor this point, you get it. So they never did anything desperate or showed more than a casual desire to have their circumstances be different, as in the beginning before the body switch. They just fantasized about a different life, which is valid. For a movie that had dance at its core, there was very little dancing, and the little that was not very inspiring for professional dancers. And then I've probably already said this, but these two characters, they were just not compelling. Emma's friend, again, Kewe, she was really annoying, and Yinka's toaster, whatever his name was, Pere, was it? I don't know. He was boring. The acting also, I don't know. Sometimes the acting depends on the story. Sometimes the acting is unconvincing because the actors themselves are not convinced about the story that they are enacting. So in conclusion, I'm just going to say that I'm sure that this movie had a good idea. I'm sure that his heart was in the right place. The premise centered around the lure of idealizing other people's lives, it's there, but the execution was just terrible. There's not much to say about this movie except that it really was not the best use of my time. If it was a cautionary tale, I'm not sure what it was warning us about. That old woman, I think the actress is Efe, I don't know, I can't remember her name. Her scenes were only to be forwarded, to be endured. They were just incredibly boring. This movie was boring. After the movie wrapped, they still managed to tack on an extra 15 to 20 minutes that really no one cared about those resolutions, because so far we hadn't cared about the story. So there wasn't much enjoyment this movie was a chore to watch. There wasn't much enjoyment or depth or heart in this. The story was told very mechanically with check boxes. They checked the boxes, fine. So it was like somebody said, want to do a body switch movie. Oh, that would be such a fascinating concept. Well, you did a body switch movie and it was not good. And I hate this because I really do like Judith Aldu, but this was not a good movie. So I don't recommend this movie, and that's another thing that I'm changing. I used to say in the beginning that I recommend every movie if only to say you did see it and you can track the growth of Nollywood, and that's still true for your own sake. But I need you to be able to trust me for a recommendation. When I say, oh, do watch this movie, that has to mean something. So that also means that when it's not a good movie, I need to be able to say I don't recommend it, but of course I'm not going to physically hog tie you and stop you from watching it. So yeah, no, don't recommend. It was painful to watch. I scored this movie a 4 out of 10, and I'm not even sure why. That's feeling incredibly generous. So guys, that's it for L.I.F.E. Did you see my marquee? Yeah, that's the one thing where sometimes when a movie, especially when a movie is such a chore, I'm like, okay, at least I can get some pleasure out of creating the marquee art. So I enjoyed making that while, ruminating about this movie. So thank you so much for tuning in. Before you go, don't forget to do all the things, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't, and tell me what you would like me to review. What do I tell you? You have the right to an incredible viewing experience, so never settle.